This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shashina Roll, and we are coming to you live from the Emergency Operations Center here on Grand Bahama. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping the news, the entire Bahamas is under a hurricane watch. All eyes are fixed on powerful Hurricane Irma that has already claimed 11 lives in the Caribbean. The storm is making its way over to the Turks and Caicos Islands on a track to the Bahamas. Chief Meteorologist Kirk James says there is some good news for the northern Bahamas.
At 5 this afternoon, this dangerous hurricane was located 40 miles south of Grand Turk Island. That's about 135 miles east of Great Inagua, with maximum sustained winds of 175 miles per hour. Present movement west-northwest at 16 miles per hour. Now, looking at a little bit in detail, this extremely dangerous system was about 619 miles away from Grand Bahama. The approximate closest point of approach is expected to be 123 miles now, so that's a little jog to the left from Grand Bahama, 66 miles away from Bimini, and Abaco, 211 miles away from Abaco. Now, hurricane force winds extends out to 70 miles from the center. Tropical storm force winds extend out 185 miles from the center. And of course, a hurricane warning is in effect for the entire northwest Bahamas. So the track is essentially the same, except it has jogged a little to the left. And that's better news for Grand Bahama and slightly better news for Bimini. Abaco always was not that bad.
Well, tonight, the Deputy Prime Minister is advising the people of Grand Bahama not to underestimate the magnitude of Hurricane Irma. The monstrous storm could impact the northern Bahamas by this weekend. The Bahamas prepare to face yet another storm. The Deputy Prime Minister and MP for East Grand Bahama, the Honorable Peter Turnquest, is warning residents to finalize all plans and take the necessary precautions immediately. Hurricane Irma is being regarded as an historic storm for the Atlantic Ocean and one that has already claimed the lives of many throughout the region.
Finding plywood today is already difficult, and so we need to make sure that we take whatever precautions, acquire whatever supplies and equipment we need now to complete preparations so that we are prepared for whatever happens during this storm. We want to encourage residents who are in West End and the Western District to consider evacuating to the central Freeport area. The same with the people in East Grand Bahama. Those that are on the Keys in particular, those who are in low-lying areas, we want to encourage you to not try to brave this out by yourselves. Come into the shelter. We know that it's inconvenient, but it is better to be inconvenienced and safe than to be sorry later on.
Many Grand Bahamians pride themselves of having gone through some of the worst storms this country has ever faced and have made the decision to stay home even when an evacuation warning was given. But the DPM is reiterating the fact that officers will not risk their lives for persons who refuse to evacuate when asked to do so.
It's very important for people to understand. We will not allow persons to go out and risk their lives to save people because they would not take heed very sage advice. It is unfair to those families of these officers to ask them to go out in the middle of a storm to rescue people. Again, we've had experience with storms, and we know what happens. We know which areas flood. We all know if our structures are sound or not. Please do not put the Royal Bahamas Police Force or Royal Bahamas Defense Force in harm's way by having to go out in the middle of a storm to try and rescue people. That is unfair to them, it's unfair to their families.
As a member of Parliament for East Grand Bahama, he says he's already getting reports of persons who have opted not to evacuate that area.
Speaking to my people in East Grand Bahama, I know that in Sweeting's Key, for instance, there are individuals who are saying that they don't want to leave. Sweeting's Key is a very small key, and if we have tidal surges, they can be inundated with salt water. And so, you know, again, I understand wanting to be comfortable, but we must place safety above the inconvenience of being in an unfamiliar surrounding.
This island is still reeling from the effects of Hurricane Matthew that struck back in October and has yet to bounce back from that monster storm. Turnquest also shares his concerns about personal residences and public infrastructure on Grand Bahama.
We know what has happened in the last hurricane with respect to the effect it has had on the commercial activity in the Freeport area, which we have not yet, unfortunately, recovered from. So we are certainly very concerned about that. We know that we've taken all precautions that we can in that regard to protect our assets, and we pray that this storm will continue to go west and we will have minimal impacts on the island.
But he says he is pleased that the relevant government agencies are busy preparing for this storm and is completely satisfied that Grand Bahama is in ready mode. Well, as you've heard, various stakeholders and government agencies coming together to fine-tune the hurricane plan as Hurricane Irma makes its way towards the Bahamas. As Italia Hall tells us, police officials say safety is their top priority. With Hurricane Irma predicted to be hours away from the northern Bahamas, the Deputy Commissioner of Police, Emric Seymour, says all of the policing protocols have been activated in Grand Bahama, Abaco, and Bimini.
I must add that the EOC, which is headed by the NEMA representative, they will be channeling all of the information pertaining to this particular hurricane. And so the police department will be lending aid as necessary.
The Defense Force will be on hand to assist as well.
Normally we serve as an advanced team for the Royal Bahamas Defense Forces Central Operations, as well as operational assets on the ground to be tasked as required. Once again, we, the Northern Command of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, stands ready for the storms that may come.
The National Emergency Management Agency Supplies Officer Tammy Mitchell says NEMA is working with all government and non-government agencies to ensure the safety of residents. Mitchell says the Emergency Operations Center is now activated as well.
We have also did a preliminary check with reference to all of our emergency supplies. And when we say emergency supplies, it's the basic supplies that you would need to send to the shelters to ensure that those things are in place. We are, however, encouraging persons throughout the length and breadth of Grand Bahama in particular to ensure that when you do leave your homes, please remember to take along your important documents.
From the education sector, the District Superintendent of East Grand Bahama and the surrounding Keys, Yvonne Ward, is advising parents to ensure that their kids use this time wisely.
As you know, we've only had orientation. They can now revise, take their books with them if they're going to the centers. This will be a good time to revise, take some books with them so that they can secure those books. And last year, after the hurricane, I think the problem we had was students not being able to find their uniforms. So this would be a good time to pack those things up.
Reporting for ZNS Network News, I'm Italia Hall.
Well, Hurricane Irma is expected to bring heavy rain and high storm surges. As a result, residents living on the coastlines are being urged to evacuate. This call to leave comes as residents are still trying to recover from Hurricane Matthew. But as we hear in this report, for most residents in the south, they are not prepared to take any chances. Not much activity taking place in the southern community as our ZNS News team scoured the area to see if residents were in preparation mode. But what we did find was many homes still boarded up and many tarps placed on rooftops following Hurricane Matthew of last year. But we also did come across Bimini resident Gervais Lewis, who traveled from that northern island of Bimini in an effort to get away from Hurricane Irma. But now he may find himself having to relocate again from the southern community of Pinder's Point.
I guess they could be ready. Yeah, I was buttoning up this today, but I wait till tomorrow. I got to put some sheet under this.
For these residents, Maydon Russell, Frida Seymour, and Sanford Brown, they are all prepared to leave if they are told that the area must be evacuated. They say Hurricane Matthew taught them a lesson that they will not soon forget.
Ready to go right now. Last time I stayed here, but this time, as Bendy said, go, I'm ready to go.
See the sea out there? That's my house right here. And when that sea start coming in, that water start coming in, You got to move.
Where are you going?
By my sister.
You remember Hurricane Matthew?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that scary for you?
Well, only the wind when they're knocking against the window.
We didn't get through over the other one. This one comes right along. I'm packed to go down to my daughter. My husband said he's going to pub the plywood tomorrow.
And like Brown's husband, many of the men in the southern community say that they have weathered many storms and they are not prepared to leave.
Well, this area is always high. The water don't settle here and the water don't come in, you see. I've been from Donna, Betsy, all them. I 71. I've been here from I was born, living right there.
So do you plan to stay or?
Yes, man. I stayed all them. You know, your house is built strong, but you're on high ground, so you know, the water can settle a little down there and up there, but no water settle in this area.
I just choose to stay here again. Ain't nothing big to it, that's just my choice. I ain't afraid. Whatever come my way, I think I could deal with it.
Okay, so the last time you stayed by yourself?
Yeah, me one. Radio. Sleep right there on the front room on the porch. I mean on the floor. Get up, I watch that roof blow off, I watch this roof blow off, and that roof blow off.
God control things. Always remember that. God control things. So leave it up them and he knows what's best.
So you do not plan to evacuate, I take it?
No. Every time hurricane come, it look like we safe for home than in a shelter or something. And that's not too much people inside there.
But NEMA and police officials strongly disagree and are adamant that they will not put emergency personnel in harm's way for persons who refuse to leave if an evacuation order is given. These women are urging all residents in the Southern District to leave should the need arise.
I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. If they don't want to go, it's up to them. But I know my life more than anything in this world.
It was Matthew with the roofs and everything. So this time, take no chances. Just go.
Well, safety on the streets during a storm is a concern for emergency response workers, and so Grand Bahama Port Authority has taken steps to enhance safety and save money all at the same time. Italia Hall reports.
The Grand Bahama Port Authority has started taking down all traffic lights throughout the city out of concern that they could sustain serious damage or become flying missiles during high winds. As a result, the Deputy Director of Building and Development, Troy McIntosh, says to ensure the smooth flow of all traffic, motorists should drive with due care and attention.
Starting with the intersection of BMES, East, which is Beachway, and East Sunrise. Those junctions thereafter will be known as a four-way stop. The use of those junctions are important, and they are as follows. All motorists approaching those junctions must stop. The first driver that reaches that junction has the right-of-way to move. However, if multiple motorists arrives at the junction at the same time, courtesy is then afforded by one of the drivers to allow the other to move. In addition, if 4 drivers approaches the intersection at the same time, the same rule applies in terms of courtesy.
McIntosh says street name signs will be removed as well.
We know that if Florida is affected, we will not receive supplies for those materials on this island for at least 3 months. It's extremely important, though, that we save those to make sure that you can get around. Now, keep in mind, after the hurricane, most of those signs will not be in place for some time.
The Deputy Director is asking all residents to download the free application Here We Go on their smartphones.
It's extremely useful. It gives you turn-by-turn directions. All you would need is your address or a block number along with your street name. In some cases, you don't need that. As long as you have a general location, you place it in there and it will take you to the general location you are inquiring about.
He says once the hurricane has passed, persons can use the Freeport Report application to report any damage in their area or other issues.
It's a live GPS app that allows you to ping issues that you see in the city that you need to take care of. whether it's down power lines, no matter what it is, it's live, you receive it, it's logged, it's tracked. You can see when it's resolved. We can push messages to you, advising you of the status of your concern.
It's Halia Hall, ZNS Network News.
Stay with us, there's more news right after this.